Let's use the range potential of the long shield.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
We have explored now several aspects of the long shield. We have looked at simple and more complex deflections. We have looked at different types of disarms, and now I want to explore another aspect. And I'm not entirely sure whether this is somehow backed up from any of the manuals where this shield is shown, but it came up during our play with this shield, and I want to show the mechanics and I want to know what you think of it. So, it's not out of thin air. It follows a certain mechanic that we know, for example, from spares and stuff like that, what it's about. So, we do a deflection and we have the long shield in our normal half sword position, but after the deflection, we throw the end of the shield that is pointing backwards to the front, and we do that by letting go with the hand at the side that is backwards. By that, the shield turns around on our wrist, and our offhand, the hand that just let go, can grab the shield again at the tip region. This is, as I said, not an unusual movement. It's well known with a spear, with a long stick, even with hanbo and stuff like that. And rotating things are also not uncommon to us. We have seen a lot of things already with weapons like the Irish stick, or I mean basically when we use a long sword in thumb hold, everything is rotating all the time. So the principal mechanic here is not surprising. On the other hand, this is a heavy object we are throwing around here, and what I can say from being on the other side, so seeing this action towards you, is quite frightening. The advantage is you get more range with the long shield. So after deflecting, you can increase the distance to your opponent and still hit him or her with a quite frightening strike. That could of course also be used to simply force him to increase the distance even further, to make you some space in a situation where this is necessary. And what we have then is also a position that is not very unlike a spear. We can still stab and make deflecting actions like with the spear. So also that does not feel that awkward. There might be some depictions in the fencing manuals that could be read in this direction, but I'm simply unsure whether it's really meaning this very specific situation. We have explored it in all of the angles and it always works, although I have to say I like it more in angles 1 and 2, so when I have deflected in a Wacht-like position, because then I have about 180 degrees traveling for the backward pointing tip, and that's very, very effective. I can even redirect it a bit and not strike entirely from above, but under a certain angle, so almost a bit like a Zwerchhau, like a helicopter strike as it's termed in English sometimes. When we do the same strike from after deflecting angles 3 and 4, the tip only travels about 90 degrees and or a bit more than that, in fact, but around that, so it gets less of an acceleration and therefore not the same type of force. It's also not so easy to redirect it then in a more horizontal action. Still, it's possible and it's feasible and it seems to be very, very effective, and it's likewise very, very frightening. Of course, we can switch back from here, so we can throw forward this action and then go back to the half sword position. Although what we've recognized is you have to be a bit careful, because the one hand staying at the shield still also secures the sword, and sometimes it angles a bit off, and when we grip it again, we might be not perfectly aligned with the sword grip. So this going back is probably easier if you only have the shield and not the sword in addition. Still, I like this move quite a lot. Maybe it's even a good introduction into separating the two weapons. We will have to explore that a bit more. We have already discussed in one of the last videos that separating the two weapons can be challenging in certain situations, at least when it comes to follow-up techniques. And here this might offer us something like we can make room first, we can make space and chase the attacker, the opponent, the partner, to be honest, in most cases here, away and making space to get our two weapons separate. We are already talking tactics here, and on the other hand, we are still exploring the basic mechanics of these things. I think this should have been a mechanic that has been used because it offers a different type of range. And range is something we see changed quite a lot over fencing situations in medieval manuals, so that we will have very long range attacks that cover ground going closer into the opponent, into Schwert, Ringen, into sword wrestling, where we are very close and can also employ, for example, the dagger and things like that. Therefore, I think this long shield will have been used also in this way, meaning over different distances that can be strategically interconnected. If you have such a shield and you can experiment with it, please tell me what you think. Would you like this type of position? Do you think it's worth it? I have the feeling, or the experience now, you can still use it for deflecting incoming attacks. It of course gets slower. This is the same problem as with a sword that we first have in half sword position. Then the range is very, very short, but we are very fast with the tip and also with the pommel. If we then switch to the normal hold, so to say, so both hands on the handle, we get of course much more range. But on the other hand, the speed gets down. Even with a very fast and agile weapon, the simple thing is that due to the longer range, we also have longer distances that need to travel, and that's even more true for such a monstrosity as we see it here. But that might in fact be also the big advantage. The monstrosity is moved with a lot of its mass onto the opponent, and yes, it's slower, but on the other hand, if the opponent tries to deflect this attack, this will be very, very challenging due to the enormous inertia that we are facing here. Even with our training shields that are already made not to hurt our opponent, this is in fact dangerous, and sometimes you got a bit of whacking here against the head because it's hard to stop this thing due to its enormous inertia. Be careful if you try it, but I would really be interested in your experience. For the moment, I hope we could inspire you, and I hope to see you around next time.